All right, good evening, good evening. Hope that everyone is doing pretty well today. Remember, today we're doing adolescent games, so think newlywed games. That's exactly where we're going today. All right, so again and again, we are doing adolescent games. Think newlywed games. You get to test your skills. And y'all, excuse me today. So I know it's a little bit of a different angle, and I'm quite cozy and comfortable today. I really am. We are on a mission to stay warm down here. I'm in the Dallas area, and so I don't know if y'all have seen what's been happening here, but it has been quite cold to say the least. Okay, let's see. So I'll wait a little bit before we start playing the adolescent game, giving some people some time to check in. Mm-mm-mm. Yes, yes. It's giving you some time to check in. Come check us out if you can. All right. So again, we're playing adolescent games today. So I'm really going to test your knowledge of adolescence. What do you know? For some of us, we're going to have to think back a little farther than others, but what do you know? What do you remember about adolescence? And do you know how it may have changed or shifted since you qualified to be mentioned in that category, right? Since you qualified. So we'll wait just a moment and we'll start spinning. So again, I want you to think basically newlywed games, right? Well, I'll be asking you some questions. We're going to spin this wheel, which I'll share. I'll share. You'll be able to see it if you're following along on the Facebook group or LinkedIn. But Instagram, I'll just read it out loud so y'all can know what question came up, and you also chime in with your very best guess, your very best idea. All right, we'll wait just a couple more moments and see. Again, I hope that everyone that is experiencing these crazy temperature drops is definitely staying warm. I hope so. Do what you need to do to stay warm, seriously. All right, we will go ahead and start. So let me share what's happening on this side. So again, there's a wheel that you'll see. It's going to pop up for those on Facebook and LinkedIn, right? And while you see the screen, it'll just show you exactly which question pops up, and it'll be random, and we'll just let it kind of roll how it rolls. So let's see. The picker wheel, we're sharing that one. Here we go. All right. So we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel, and we'll see what question comes up. Okay, so the first question says adolescent business owners are on the rise, true or false? Right, so we can chime in. Do you think adolescent business owners are on the rise, true or false? And I feel like maybe the wheel was being a little gentle on us for the first question, right? So this is definitely a true statement. So a lot of young people, right? Because in different ways, we know that they definitely have the entrepreneurial bug. If it's everything from different cosmetology skills to maybe even designing different apparel, T-shirts, all types of things, right? They definitely are in the mindset of turning something that they like to do into a monetized thing, into a moneymaker for sure. So we'll hide that one. So the first one, yes, yes, adolescent business owners, that demographic is on the rise. Let's see what's next. All right. So this next question, it actually is not supposed to be as hard as it has been for a lot of people. So what is the age range of adolescent? So what age do you think it starts? What age do you feel like it finishes? What is the age range for adolescents? So give me your best guess. And I'm also going to tell you some guesses, some very common guesses that people have when I've asked them this on a previous live or just in conversation, right? Average conversation. Hey, hey, Tangerine. Look, you came at a wonderful time. So we see that the wheel picker just pulled up the question, what is the age range of adolescence? So again, I'm gonna give you some time to put your very best guess in the comments, but also let us know where you're checking in from, because again, I hope that everyone is staying warm. Some people I've talked to, they've liked to guess about 12 to 17. Let's see, Tangeray said 15 to 19. So a lot of people always focus on the teens quite often, right? They say, maybe about 13 to 18 is pretty common. But what if I told you all that, again, it's a lot broader, if the range is a lot broader. It really is than what most people assume. And so that already kind of starts with common misconceptions regarding adolescence. All right. Otangere says she's checking in from Nashville. So I hope you're staying warm. I hope you're staying warm there because I know the South is going through some things right now. Yes, that's why I'm cozy today for sure. But on the front end, technically adolescence starts as soon as the hormones start changing for puberty. So these days, for a lot of different reasons, it can be as early as 10. It can be as early as 10 or 11. So think about fifth grade, right? Then on the back end, adolescence is not finished until the moment that a lot of adults wait for, right? The decision making skills. So we're like, what made you think, right? So when that, all of that. So imagine that the onset of adolescence is really a physical thing, right? Because it's when puberty starts. But on the back end, it really is a social thing, a social and emotional thing when your decision making part of your brain, when your cortex is finished developing, you're ready to go. And that age, y'all, is 25. So it's literally a 15-year span. So from about 10 to 25, we're in adolescence. That's where we're living. Tangerine says she is sitting in the house with a hoodie and a scarf. Man, I believe it. I believe it. Do what you need to do, though. I'll say that. Definitely do what you need to do. All right, next question. We'll hide this one. So, question 3. Let's see, the wheel has been taking it easy on us. We're building up a little bit. We're building up. So, listen, this one. So, this question is obviously it's a bit more tricky, and it's a true open-ended question, right? Not a true false, not necessarily a range again. So, asking you to be a bit more specific. The question is, how many adolescents are there in the world? How many adolescents are there in the world? And we'll answer it with 2 layers in just a moment. So we'll talk about the yes globally, then we'll talk about the last adolescent check-in for the US as well, based on the last census. So how many adolescents are there in the world? Tell me what you think. Y'all are probably like, really? It's just so wide open, huh? So in the world, there are about 1 billion adolescents, okay? And in the US, It's at about 500 million. And I want to go on record and say this though. So based on the actual range that the census normally has the cutoffs for adolescents, you all, it would technically be more if we're really doing the 10 to 25. It's more. So again, globally, how many adolescents are in the world? 1 billion, right? And that's basically they were focusing on those teens, not all the way 10 to 25. And in the US, a half million just in the US by itself. So again, if we truly did the 15-year spread, it's a lot more. It really is. True, true. All right, let's see what's next. And y'all chime in the chat if you're learning something about adolescence. Remember, this was a game to test your skills, test your knowledge. If you're learning something, right, or you thought you knew, and maybe it's a little bit of a shift now, please let me know. Please say so. Okay, so this question says, true or false? So, right, you have a 50% chance of getting it right already. So, Generation Z will have 10 jobs in their lifetime. True or false? What is your best guess? True or false? Generation Z will have 10 jobs in their lifetime. And I'm starting with Generation Z there because I want to also be clear that if you did not know already, Generation Z is in the full-time workforce now, right? The oldest Generation Z young or people, adults, are about 26, 27 right now. So I wanted to make a point to say that. So, because that's a whole nother live, that's a whole nother discussion when we get into some of the workplace dynamics and making sure people are aware of all the different generations that are working together and doing stuff. That's why we're having some of the shenanigans we're having, right? So, okay, Tangeray said that they don't take any mess, right? So they have a different, real quick, they have a different awareness of themselves, and they do have different baselines. Like they're not as forgiving, and I'm not going to say not as forgiving, but not as likely to just roll with it just for the sake of rolling with it and pushing through. They're very in tune. Their their intrapersonal skills are very on point. They're pretty aware of themselves, especially when it comes to their emotions. They're in touch. They're very in touch with it. Depending on experiences, it may come out different ways, but they do know how they feel and they do move accordingly. I'll say that. So Tangeray says she thinks it's true that they will have 10 jobs in their lifetime. Guess what? It's closer to 20. So this data was pulled and taken before COVID for one. So I'm sure that that's a whole nother thing to shift from, right? But this is from about 2018. And it was about 17 then that they were on track, that in their lifetime, they would have about 17 jobs. And not just, like quick jobs, or maybe like even careers and career pivots and maybe things that kind of complement each other, but still about 17 different jobs, truly, truly. So not just because, they don't take any mess and they'll move on, but also just because the skill sets and things overlap and they're constantly changing. The workplace is evolving. All right, we're down to these last two questions. Let's see. Okay. And so we hinted at it a bit, right? We talked about them being very in tune with their emotions, and it can appear and be demonstrated differently depending on experiences and strategies and whatnot. So this question is another true or false. It says globally, 1 in 5 people between the ages of 10 to 19 experience a mental disorder. What do you think, true or false? Globally. So thinking about that, those 1 billion plus, right? People between these ages, just 10 to 19, experience a mental disorder, true or false? And again, thinking mental disorders, anything from depression, anxiety, a lot of the common emotional disorders that people are experiencing, regardless of ages, honestly. All right. So, very best guess for this one in five. This is true. This is true. Okay. This is true globally. And when it comes time to look at just US adolescents, US young people, it does change a bit. It really does. It changes a bit. All right. So, last one, just one question left. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Now, this of all of the different questions I wanted to pull to test your knowledge of adolescence, I'm like, really? This one came up last, but it is really the most interesting question to me, and I feel like the wheel is doing its thing because it is truly something we can kind of stick a pin in and continue to talk about at another time when we talk about adolescence. So this question is it's a fill in the blank. It says research estimates show that blank percent of jobs Gen Z will work doesn't exist today. So yeah, they've started working, but think about, 25, for many of us that was 15, 20 plus years ago. And so we may have had some career pivots and shifts, but maybe some of the skill sets were still the same. Basic career paths were still the same. So think about that as you're answering this question. So, what percent of jobs will Gen Z work that don't even exist today? So, remember we said they're on track to have about 20 jobs in their lifetime. What percent don't exist today? If you had to guess. Yeah. And you know what? I'll let you choose a range if you want to chunk it into quarters. If you want to do maybe 50 to 75, 75 to 100, or I'll give you that. I'll give you that. You can chunk it into quarter ranges if you like, into quartiles. All right. So again, this is research, and this was research that was done again in about 2018, but it went in depth, in tremendous depth with Generation Z and just kind of who they are and their experiences that helped to make them who they are. But the research is showing that about 70%, and so that was then. So, I'm again going to say at this point, on this side of COVID and a lot more technology being incorporated in jobs across the board, that I feel that is a bigger percentage for sure at this point. But even then, about 4 years ago, y'all, it was about 70%. It was just shy of 70%. And one of my favorite examples, if we think about it, we look back, not even 5 years ago, drone pilots weren't a thing, right? But think about how many different sectors, how many different lanes drone pilots are used now. So, drone pilots are used in the military now. Drone pilots are used in transportation, like my Amazon and things, UPS, to deliver some basic packages, but also used in the medical field when it's those very sensitive, not just time sensitive, but literally sensitive medical needs. So, like organs, even. So a lot of different lanes use drone pilots. And again, that wasn't a thing. I said 5 years ago, but not even really 3 years ago. So this percentage that we're at, it was barely below 70, but I would venture out to say that in these past few years, especially 2020 and beyond, it's increased. So we're thinking about that. So when we're talking about different skill sets that we want to make sure we're modeling and giving our young people, our adolescents, time to practice and these tools, it's more not just concrete hard skills. A lot of the skills are soft skills, and they really need that space to practice that, where it's not quite high stakes yet, right? Where it's not real life where it has to count, but it'll be a lot of different situations that when they hit a real and actual situation, they have enough familiarity that they recognize what type of skill set they need to apply. And they've had time to practice that skill set. Yeah. So, again, just thinking about just the flexibility that they will need. Because, again, if it's about 70%, about 70% of the jobs that they'll work don't even exist yet, you can imagine that there's certain skills that, yes, are ongoing. Yes, reading, writing, basic calculations and things, but a lot of that critical thinking, the time management, a lot of flexibility, being able to collaborate, even making those on the spot decisions, right? That immediate critical thinking. A lot of these skills, they're going to need more time and more space to practice. And the earlier, the better. So that's kind of where we'll stick a pin in it. Hey, hey, Wanda, how are you? Hey, hey. That's kind of where we'll stick a pin in it for tonight. Just again, if you missed some of it, you can go back, catch the replay, put hashtag replay, and you can see some of the questions, right, to test your skills for what did you know? What did you know and remember about adolescence? But thank you all so much. Again, if you're especially people in the South, I know for sure. I know it's cold everywhere, but y'all know we aren't as used to this in the South. So everyone, please do stay warm, take care, stay bundled up. Thank y'all for joining, and let me know what you think. All righty. Bye bye. Good night.